Hey y'all, happy Friday. Let's have a little real talk before we get into this voice note. So, I almost edited parts of this episode out, not because they weren't real, but because they were a little too real. Funny enough, when I was on Instagram for a while, I had this series called Is This Shit Too Real for You? I drop a truth bomb and be like, okay, bye. And honestly, this felt like one of those, is this shit too real for you moments? Something flew out of my mouth during the recording that even caught me off guard, which you will hear as you listen to the voice note because I didn't take it out. As a recovering people pleaser, this one was hard to sit with. I felt exposed, unsure, and maybe even a little ashamed, but I knew this was a teachable moment for us all. That's why I left it in. I kept asking myself in that moment, what if this is too much? What if I sound mean? But here's the truth. Sometimes healing is about feeling and expressing the full range of your emotions as they come up. There have been so many times I've been angry and still prioritize the comfort of the people who hurt me or stuff down those emotions. How does that make sense? I'm the one hurting, but I'm the one doing the consoling. And just because I'm angry or sad doesn't mean I don't still have responsibility for my words in those moments. But as someone who spent years being overly curated, I'm learning how to recover when something slips out instead of always trying to say the exact right thing to keep the peace, to be liked, or to make someone else feel okay, a chameleon, if you will, right? And that doesn't mean you gotta disrespect someone just because they disrespected you, but it does mean we don't have to betray ourselves to stay palatable. This time, I didn't do that. I didn't soften the blow. I didn't center someone else's comfort. I just expressed how I felt as the emotions started to come up for me. And that's what the mediocre Black woman is about. Being enough, rest, mess, and all. And I can't step over the mess. Sometimes I have to acknowledge it. Sometimes I have to let it fly and recover. I swear, I felt like some ancestor who sits on the porch smoking a cigarette and watching the neighborhood just rose up through me and was like, nah, I got this one. Let me handle your lightweight. So anyway, if you hear some divine rage in my voice, let it be. If it feels uncomfortable, good. That means it's doing something. So I hope this episode moves you toward more clarity, more self-trust, and more permission to honor your own vision and your own voice. Mess, rest, and all, child. Now let's get into it. Mediocre Black woman family, hello. It's Goddess Thea here. Happy Friday. Listen, let's get straight into this. So keep this shit sacred. This voice note was sparked by another idea, and then there was a second confirmation of this same idea. Keeping that shit sacred basically means like the things that you birth from your creative spirit, your creative womb, to discern who to share with and how to share, right? Sometimes we, share with people in the hopes that we are celebrating and being excited about the fact that we got over ourselves and we were able to be vulnerable enough and courageous enough at the same time to share something out in the world, right? And I think we're in this day and age right now where everybody feels like their opinion has to be heard and that it could be the furthest thing from the truth. Opinions matter, yes, blah, blah, blah. But timing also matters, Somebody gets on the stage to speak, they were already nervous, already shaking, and they get over it and overcome and are courageous enough to still get up there anyway. You don't tell them immediately as they get off of the stage that, oh, they bombed it, or, oh, this is how they can improve. Here are a bunch of critiques. No, you applaud them, you high five them for their bravery. And later on, after they're not in a heightened state anymore, you ask permission, if you can give feedback, or if you can give, some tips, because I really like what you did here. Would you mind if I share some feedback to like really elevate this, for the next time, right? Like, but you don't do that as soon as they come off of the stage. That's how you make somebody feel like they'll never get on the stage again, because they'll remember that interaction. Now, I talked to a lot of different people this week who have shared things, and then others have said really weird things, and I was like, that person's never created something and been vulnerable about it and put it out there, right? Like, you publicly put something out there. Shout outs to you. I don't even care if it sucks. Like, the fact that you put it out there and you got over yourself to do it and got over your fears, like, shout outs to you. That's the first thing that needs to be said, So, when you're sharing your baby with people, hey, I created this thing. I'm really proud of it. I just wanted you to know. Not looking for feedback on this. Don't know if I will be in the future, but this is where I'm at right now. I'm just wanting to celebrate with the people that I love and care about, or the people that I feel like, I want to share with, whatever it is that you're going to say. And then my second confirmation that I needed to make this voice note was that I was in a public space and I was talking to a non-Black human, and this is important for this purpose. And they asked me about the creative work that I do because they just felt like what I had on today, or when I recorded this, because this happened today. Yes, it's Friday, but I recorded this a few days ago. But what I had on today, it was very creative. It was very artsy. Like you could tell. I feel like you could tell, I got something about me where you just know she does something creative, right? And she was like, I feel like you really do some type of creative work. And I was like, yeah, I do. And she was like, well, what do you do, if you don't mind? And I was like, well, I have a podcast and a publication called The Mediocre Black Woman. I just gave her the little spiel, but not too much because I'm not about to be over explaining out here in these streets. But she then was like, well, it's not just about, black or white, us being separate is the reason why we're in this mess that we're in right now. And I just looked at her like, oof, girl, that is an oversimplified, over idealized version of why we are where we are today. It is so much more complex than that, so much more nuanced. And expecting people who are often not protected, in this country to lead the way in social change is not fair all the time. Like, it shouldn't always be left up to uh marginalized. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time because I don't know if you guys can tell, I'm still a little salty because I'm recording this on the day that it happened and my hands are starting to like heat up. I could feel like myself getting angry again because I don't know, like they don't get it always, People expect Black people to heal the world while we're still bleeding ourselves, I know people feel all different types of ways about DEIB, not realizing that it actually is for everyone, but the way the powers that be like to market it in a different way or like try to remake it into something that it's not. But it's important that especially that E for equity, because we're not all at the same starting point, right? That's why that's important. And so to expect people who are often unprotected that they should just automatically make their platforms about certain things is not okay. It's like passing the buck off again, like, why don't you lead a space? Simple. I'm so I didn't mean to say that, but I did. I said it anyway. Shit, that voice note wasn't supposed to go that direction, but that's how I felt in the moment, y'all. Oh my God. Am I going to keep that? Oh my God. I actively try not to say the B word, y'all, but this shit had me hot. It had me really hot. My hands are hot. Like, there's literal heat radiating from my right hand, especially. And from the tips of my fingers on my left hand, because girl, this is not what that space is for. This space that I made, the Mediocre Black Woman, is for us to all be able to come back to a space to heal, to center ourselves, and to focus on ourselves, because we are not centering and focused on in a lot of other spaces. And if we are expected to ever be able to go out and help with social justice issues and help with what's going on in the world right now, we need a place to recover and focus on ourselves, because there's not a lot of spaces dedicated for our healing, our growth. There's a lot of beautiful communities on Substack, but overall, in the world, globally, there's not a lot of spaces for that. And so, and I purposefully, y'all know this about me and my space, I purposefully chose not to center certain individuals and people on my platform because I just will not, but it was just such a privileged place to speak from, to expect that I should just do that, especially without not knowing the intentions or the reasoning or the full breadth of why I chose to do things the way that I chose to do them. And this is why I'm saying keep that shit sacred, because God gave me the vision. God did not give her the vision. God gave me the vision. God did not give her the vision. God trusted me with the vision. God did not trust her with the vision. Okay? She didn't even have enough clarity of mind to ask my intentionality behind what I did. I didn't just slap this together overnight and was like, here we go, the mediocre black woman bow. Like, I did this with so much intent, so much heart, and so much clarity. More clarity than I've ever started a project with. Like, because, for those of y'all who are creatives, y'all know, like, sometimes you only get a piece of the puzzle and you're like, what you want me to do with this? But when I started this, I had so much stuff in my head. It was just like I was flooded with things. And I was like, okay, I have enough to really like get going and have clarity of mind as I go, which is phenomenal. So anyway, keep that shit sacred. Be fiercely protective of your baby, right? Because they gave you this creative space. They gave you this creative baby. They put that in your womb. They put that in your spirit, not in somebody else's, right? And sometimes we be looking for outside validation so god daggone much when really it's all inside of us, whew. So also, when you're in the season of the unknown, because we've been talking about that for a while now, you have to be fiercely protective of what you let in, because it could send you on a wild goose chase. It could create more confusion. It could create doubt. But in this case, I don't know, like, I feel like over the last year or so, last 2 years especially, I feel like I'm so done with doubting myself. I'm so done with letting people take me around and around in a freaking circle. Like, I am confident. I am assertive. I am clear. I have a direct line to God. Like, I don't need that. If I need it, I know who to go to ask, and I'm standing on that. You know what I mean? So anyway, I'm just sharing this with y'all. I'm having a whole sermon over here to myself. I didn't expect to go this far in this episode. This voice note took me on a turn. I said stuff that surprised me. Like, I usually try to be really careful with what I be saying on the platform, but I guess it needed to come out this way today. But y'all, protect your creative babies. Give guidance. Like, again, like I said, I'm sharing this with you because you're someone I respect. I'm not open for feedback right now. I just want to celebrate the fact that I got it out there. And who do you know that could benefit from what I just created here? That's the conversation we need to be having, because support is not always giving your feedback. Like, there are so many ways to support. Actually, speaking of support, when I'm in Florida, I have a woman that I absolutely adore. She was a part of one of my book clubs that we had a while back towards the end of last year. And so when I'm out there, I, go get my facials done by her. And she emailed me today. She was like, your laid off post, like, really made me go sit down and meditate. She's like, can I share this on my Instagram, like, with your permission? I'm like, absolutely. Like, just as long as you credit me, child, you don't never need no permission to share. Just as long as you credit me and direct people back to my stuff, I do not care. This for everybody listening. Y'all can share my stuff, okay? Because I want people to know where they can come and get this medicine, okay? But that's what support could look like, So it's just like telling people what you need from them. And when you're in a space of sensitivity, especially when you're sharing something, like, I told my best friend the other day, I was like, I wake up in a cold sweat and panic every Tuesday morning because I know I just put out an episode. And I've been putting out, podcast episodes since, 2020, 2021. I can't remember the first time I put out a podcast episode, but somewhere in there, I think it was 2021. But I've been putting out podcast episodes for a long time. Personally, when I was at work too, I had a podcast for the internal employees and stuff. And I'm telling y'all, I would wake up in a cold sweat every day. Like, I don't do this all the time. Like I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. But when I'm in that sensitive space, I don't go seeking. I have certain practices that I put in place. Like, I'm not constantly checking the numbers right away. I'm waiting. I'm not constantly checking the comments right away. Like, I give myself a moment to just sit in what I created, and I might re-listen to an episode and re-hype myself back up. But I am really protective over that, and I'm getting even more fiercely protective over that, as in the past I wouldn't have been comfortable saying all the stuff that I just said to you about being comfortable, being assertive, being confident, having a direct line to God, knowing what I know and what I need to know, and knowing when I don't know what I need to know and who I could talk to get, aligned guidance and wisdom from, So, girl, whew, child, listen, man. Okay, y'all, sorry. I'm coming down off of that because it really blew my mind. I feel like it's still blowing my mind. I'm just like, you coming from a place where you own your own home, you're set up real good. I feel like it's real easy to talk about what people should and shouldn't be doing from a position like that, And I'm not saying that there's not some truth to that, what she's saying, but what I'm saying is that's an oversimplified version of it. And I feel like it's time for more people that are coming from a place of some more security than others to speak up and to be a voice, and not expect it to fall on the shoulders of people who've been doing it, So that's what I'll say. But again, keep that shit sacred. This was like a twofold message. It was like, keep that shit sacred, but also like, it felt a little charged, but it's like, you guys get what I'm saying. I feel like you understand where I'm coming from. It's like, that's an oversimplified version of what's going on right now, if we really want to tell it, Okay, but that's not what this whole episode is about. I got my notes here because I need to go back. I didn't have notes for the voice note. I had notes for the announcement, because I knew I was going to need them after doing that. So let's all take a deep breath real quick before I go to the announcements. Okay, I think one more would be good. All right. Look at that lion's breath out there. All right. Okay. So today is Black Friday, y'all. It's our first Black Friday. So Black Friday is where we buy black, we consume black, and we commune black on Fridays. And you can bring your allies to your community events on Fridays. People were like, somebody asked me, does that mean we can't hang out with non-black people? I'm like, y'all can hang out. Just make sure y'all are buying black, or make sure you potlucking, whatever it is. Anyway, so Black Fridays is where we celebrate, we buy black, we commune black. I added commune to this because I didn't want it to just be about consumption, because we in a capitalist culture and money is what's driving this machine, and people seem to only understand money moves. So when money is not moving, people are going to be wondering what's going on. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, this is a chance for us to buy black, consume black, commune black, right? So if you can't buy black, stay at home and potluck, just find different ways to, celebrate your community, our community. And I've started a blog on the Mediocre Black Woman website. And that blog is called the Black Friday blog, TMBW Black Friday. And it's going to kind of act like a directory for all the black businesses that I connect with or that I try. And so this week, Black Friday is about Valencia. She's a neuroencoding specialist. She has a tremendous story, right? She no longer wanted to be here, and we talk about it on Tuesday. She'll be on the podcast on Tuesday, and we'll talk about her story. But she talks about no longer wanting to be here and how she shifted her mindset, and then how that led to her doing deeper work in the neuroencoding space, right? And learning the science behind how to change your mind. Because, change your mind or change your mind, Sometimes it can be legitimately that simple. And she breaks down some really great tips on that. She's also giving us access to one of her spaces for free. It's called Ease Over Exhaustion for 14-day free trial. So that's exclusive to the podcast audience who listens to the podcast and subscribes to the publication. So that will be in the blog. But in the meantime, check Valencia out, get to read up on her, and she'll be on the podcast on Tuesday. And I can't wait for that. I also just want to give a shout out. I'll be doing a Black Friday post about her eventually, but not right now. I want to give a shout out to my friend, Goddess Jasmine. She started her own publication on Substack. I'm so excited for her. It's called Housewife Turned Healer. And it's a phenomenal first post. You guys need to go read it and get into her energy. She is funny. She is raw. She is honest. She is just everything, right? She's the goddess in human form, honey, you know? And she talks about her journey of, you know, wanting to be a housewife, wanting to be loved, and kind of consumed a little bit by love, but then also at the same time avoiding her own calling of becoming a healer and creating these spaces and facilitating these things. And she's actually facilitating her own prayer circle starting in August. So I'm going to do a Black Friday post for her before we get to that date so you all can be able to check her out. I have started to repost some of her quotes from her post, her full post on my Substack, and then I'll also link her page here. She's also in the recommendations on our Substack page, so make sure y'all check her out because my friend is dope, and I'm so glad she's finally sharing herself with the world, and you guys do not want to miss out on the things that are to come with Jasmine, okay? And then the next thing is Spades and Shade. It officially starts today. So you have until 3:30 p.m. Eastern time to use the coupon code that's in the show notes to get $22 off the course. So Spades and Shade is a tarot series, a reflective tarot series for Black women. We're not going to be learning traditional, you know, card descriptions or meanings or anything like that. The goal of this series is for us to return to our intuition, you know. One of my biggest things is any offering that I create, any service that I have, I want it to always return us back to who we are and back to our inner knowing, right? Because we know what we need to do. We know who we are and we know what we got going on, you know? And so I want you to trust in yourself. That's what's important to me. I don't want y'all to be itching for a reading from me all the time. Like, oh my God, I need to put out that next collective message. Oh my God. Like, no, you have a set of powers and a set of gifts yourself, and I want to help you unlock that. That's all I want to do. I want to facilitate. I don't want to be the one doing it for you because that's not how we grow our vibration. Okay. So we'll be looking at all the different cards over a few weeks. So every 2 weeks, we'll put out a new set of content where we're going to talk about the cards. We're going to observe them. We're going to sit with them, and we're going to start to connect with them and notice what's on the cards. Because a big part of developing your intuition is being open and noticing things around you. Like noticing nature, noticing little things, noticing numbers, colors, noticing, you know, what we feel like are coincidences but are synchronicities, you know. It's paying attention to everything around you and letting it speak to you, you know. Like when I be watching television, I don't just be watching television. I be getting stuff because I'm like, oh, that reminds me of something that I saw over here and it connected back to this thing a few years ago and blah, 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 blah. And it brings me back to this place. So music, I hear certain things in certain songs, like, you know, so I want you to be connected back to your intuition. I don't want you to always feel like you need to depend on somebody, you know. Not to say that having some outside validation is not a good thing. It's actually absolutely important sometimes, you know. But to make that your sole like personality and your sole thing that you do it's not what we do around here. We want, you know, intentionality. Okay, so make sure you sign up for Spades and Shade. And that coupon code is in the show notes. Cut that. That's the coupon code. And it'll be valid until 3:30 p.m. Eastern time today. So make sure you take advantage of that. And without further ado, We are gonna end this episode. I'm so like still riled up and I feel like I have more to say, but I know I need to end it here because I could keep going on and on for like hours about this subject. But at the end of the day, keep that shit sacred. Trust yourself and know that God gave you the vision for a reason. You are beautiful, you are special, you are confident, you are powerful beyond belief, you know? And this is your show, right? So what are you going to do with it? Okay, I'll see y'all next time.